Morning, John here for yet another Saturday. I had a look a couple of weeks ago at the Neoart 6901s. Now, I've actually done a picture with them since, which is quite unusual because it usually takes me a lot of time. But that's one of the pros. We're going to have a look at the pros and cons of the Neoart 6901 today. There's going to be no colour chart. I'm just going to be telling you my thoughts, showing my picture, and showing you the new set I have. That's my picture. So a couple of weeks ago I had a look at the set of 12. There's my picture, by the way. And, you know, I had a look at them and I said I think I'm going to quite like these. Well, that did change, if I'm being honest. When I started this picture, I did actually think to myself, I just don't think I'm going to be able to get on with these. However, I persevered, and, you know, it's no good throwing in the towel like most people do after a short session of saying, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, you've got to persevere, haven't you? So that's what I always do. And eventually I found a way of using these. And in all honesty, I believe that the way I'm using them now has hopefully got me a good result. And I also think it's probably quite different to what most people are trying anyway. So that in itself is going to bring some further videos with me showing you some techniques. But my intention was to do it with just a 12 set. But I changed my mind. I could have done this with just a 12 set, although it would have been a little bit more difficult. So I went out and I bought the 48 sets. So we'll have a look at that while we can. So, you know, everything's all the same as what I said last time. But I just want to show you these colours. I mean, obviously they've been a bit used now, but there's some lovely, lovely colours in here. So much better than the 12 set, obviously. But I think if you're going to pursue these, you maybe might want to try a couple of sticks just to see what they're like, just to see if you can do anything with them, and then go straight for the big set. Now that brings me on to pros and cons. So let's say a pro is, that's actually quite a nice set. It's got a good colour selection to it, and it's probably got most of what you will need, so that's good. A con, they're very, very hard. Very hard. Now that will make you automatically push harder, but you don't want to be doing that. You just want to go a bit lighter and then find techniques. So that is a con. Another pro is it has good tear off slips. The pro is that you can see that I've done that painting and I've barely used any of the colour. I mean, my most used colour was this yellow. But look, that is still the length that it was when I started, but it's just rounded off the pictures. I mean, look at the amount of yellow in that. And obviously green as well. You don't use a lot of these. Which brings me on to another con. One of the cons, I believe, is the price. I do believe that for something that is, well, in all honesty, a little bit of a gimmick, in my opinion, but quite a good gimmick, is the price. And the price, for me, far outweighs what you're getting. Now, I assume it's because of the light fastness and all that, and I believe that. And these are a quality product, there's no doubt about that. But I just think they're really overpriced. When you feel that you can get other things that are cheaper than this and actually do just the same job, then I believe these are a bit overpriced, to be honest with you. Having said that, they are a quality product, so you're not wasting your money. It's just that it's going to put people off paying out that amount of money in the first place, in my opinion. So another pro is that you can use many techniques with these, and I'll come on to them in another video. But the other con is you've got to find these techniques, because if you don't, you're going to struggle with these. They are hard to use, very hard to use. Obviously because they're hard anyway, but trying to use them in just an ordinary way like you would an oil pastel is hard. So a pro is, I believe that I got a really nice look out of them. Now I have varnished this since, and you can varnish it. You can treat them in just the same way you treat oil pastels. There is a little bit of difference though if you want to get a result like this. The other cons are that nobody really knows how to use them, and that obviously brings me on to further videos. There's good and there's bad, and if you can get a result then it's good, but if you're struggling to use them it's bad. And I think the biggest pro or con, and in con probably, is that people just don't know how to use these. And I was like that to begin with, although I had probably a little bit more idea than maybe most, I suppose, because obviously I went on and done this. The hardest part I found was getting darkness and getting lightness. Now that might sound a bit weird because it's counterintuitive, but I found that getting darkness would either go too dark or not be dark enough, and that kind of lent to a few problems. But up in here I wanted it to be a little bit lighter so that the kingfisher's head would stand out, and to get it light enough again was also a difficult thing. These little bits on here that emulate things in the distance, they are also hard to get. It is quite difficult to get the lights, and you need to use specific techniques to do that. But on the whole, I will say I had a great experience with these. They are difficult to use. You need to get used to them. You need to find the right paper. I'm not going to tell you this was the right paper that I've used this time. I think maybe a slightly smoother paper than what I've used. And the paper I have used is the one that I would normally use for my normal oil pastels anyway. So I will try that another time. But another pro was that it didn't take me long to do this picture. I'd done it within the week, and it wasn't that I was doing it all the time. And that for me is quite an achievement, if I'm being honest, because I only work on my paintings in fits and starts due to many health problems. But I work on them in fits and starts, and for me it usually takes a month to do a picture, for many reasons. But this one, I got it done really quick. And that was also trying to find out how to use them properly as well. Now, I'm not going to say I've perfected it, but I think I've got a good result there, and I'm very pleased with it. I think that another con is that when you use a certain technique with mineral spirits and what have you, it does actually mute down the colours and makes them very matte. And I think to bring up the vibrancy of the picture, you need to then start varnishing it. But you don't want it all waxy and horrible. I've used the Sennelier fixative on this, and I'm really pleased with the result. So that's a few thoughts. I'll probably think of some more when I come off the camera. But, you know, on the whole, my experience was fantastic. So genuinely, it was a really good experience. I quite enjoyed using them. I can't say I found them any more difficult or any more harder than oil pastels, or any easier for that matter. I think they're about the same. You've got to get used to certain things like the hardness, the waxiness, and the fact that you've got to find certain techniques in order to be able to use these in a fine art painting way. You can just sketch with them and use them like crayons, but if you're going to pay that amount of money on a box of oil wax pastels, you don't want to use them like crayons, do you? You want to use them like a fine art material. I saw Black Bean using them, and he did a portrait as he always does in his fantastic style, and he can use them. He can use, but I don't think he was overjoyed with them. And I can understand why. I would suggest moving away from the 12 set, because you're not going to get a lot out of that. I had intended to do my painting with just the 12 set, but I quickly found that I needed a little bit more than that. So maybe the 24 set to a start, which is going to be mega expensive, but definitely go for the 48 set. And if you can find them somewhere cheaper, you know, they're going to be worth having. But if you're going to pay the full price, cool. I don't want to suggest you pay that money and then be very disappointed, because they're very difficult to use, and they are difficult to use. And that's not just me saying that, I've seen other YouTubers say that. And in all honesty, the painting I've produced, I hope is one of the better ones out there. I had to really pull on every resource of knowledge of painting that I had. But we got there, and I'm really, really happy. And I'm really looking forward to using them again. It is bizarre. There's all these things that are not great about them, but there are a lot of things that are good about them. And I'm really looking forward to using them again. If I had to give them a mark out of 10, I suppose I'd be looking at 8-ish. You know, around about 8-ish. And it's because they can't blend, they're expensive. Oh, well, they can blend, but they're not brilliant. Don't expect them to be an oil pastel. But, yeah, it was a really good experience. I'm really pleased with what I've turned out. And onward and upward to the next one. So, until then, don't forget I've got memberships. Please don't forget to subscribe and like. And hopefully within the next couple of videos I'll bring you a few techniques. I'll also probably tell you about them oil pastels that I promised you I would, that are really good. I'm kind of looking at the other set of them at the moment and seeing if they're just the same. Until next time, please have a great day, a great week and a great year, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.